Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. I know I haven't done a video overview of the week for a while, but because we have two readings by two different people this week, I did want to spend a minute just to talk a little bit about the readings and contextualize them. So when you open up the folder for this week, you'll see that in addition to the list of readings and the link to the discussion board, I've also gone ahead and put in an introduction to the two readings, like I did earlier this semester. And when you open that up, you will see the reading notes that I've gone ahead and put together for this reading. And as I say in the reading notes, the readings for this week, unlike the readings in past weeks, instead of complementing one another, they actually present two opposing positions on basically how to teach grammar and style to students who speak non-standard versions of English. So this would include versions of English like African American Vernacular English or Spanglish or other sort of non-standard dialects of English. So I have a note here that also says that, so what you have in these two readings are basically two different perspectives, two opposing perspectives on at least one part of this issue. And I don't expect you to sort of stake out a position on this issue, at least not necessarily this week. So I'm not necessarily expecting you to sort of take a position. But what I do want to do is I want to expose you to the different perspectives on this issue so that when you're in your own classroom, you know that this is something that people are having a conversation about and you can make an informed decision on your own. So I'm going to talk just for a few seconds about each of these readings, but I do encourage you to go ahead and read this introduction on your own. So the first reading is chapter 14 from Weaver and Bush's book, Grammar to Enrich and Enhance Writing. But chapter 14 isn't actually written by Constance Weaver. Chapter 14 is actually written by Rebecca S. Wheeler. And as I say here, she's a scholar who is sort of well known for her work on what she calls code switching. And if you've taken a linguistics class, you may be familiar with the term code switching and referring to sort of people moving back and forth between different languages or even maybe different dialects sort of spontaneously within a conversation. But Wheeler uses the term a little bit differently, and she uses the term to apply to a specific sort of pedagogical practice where you have techniques that sort of teach students to consciously move from one version of English to another version of English, and even has sort of like charts that students develop and sort of worksheets that they do that sort of help them consciously move from one version of English to another version of English. And then our other reading for this week is an article by Vershawn and Shantay Young. And in this article, Young basically comes out and is very much opposed to Wheeler's idea of code switching. And he basically argues two things. He argues, first of all, that it sort of perpetuates a sort of racist logic. And secondly, he argues that it's not actually practical, that people are not capable of simply just moving from one version of English to another version of English. Your brain doesn't work that way. It doesn't just sort of switch off and switch into something else. And what he advocates is something he calls code meshing, where you're sort of consciously, as a writer and a speaker, thinking about how to integrate your home English or the English that you were raised with into more sort of formal kinds of English. So that's sort of the big picture of what we're talking about this week. So I will go ahead and sort of leave that with you. I do strongly encourage you to go ahead and take a look at this introduction to the readings before you do the readings. And I'll look forward to what you guys have to say about them in discussion.